Welcome, Radio Maria listeners, to From the Rooftops. From the Rooftops, we'll discuss current issues within society in light of the beauty and truth of church teaching. Your host, Deacon Burke-Sivers, is a well-known and highly respected permanent deacon who is a full-time speaker and evangelist. Over the years, he has hosted several EWTN television series and is a regular guest on Catholic radio programs throughout the country. We now bring you Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers with From the Rooftops.
Not to us, Lord, not to us, but to your name give the glory. Radio Maria listeners, this is Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers, and welcome once again to From the Rooftops. Today is, this week, we're remembering a not so wonderful anniversary, the 40th anniversary of the Roe versus Wade decision, legalizing abortion in this country. And if we all know the statistics, about 55 million lives been lost since 1973. And I just want to give a perspective here, being myself a Black Catholic, reflecting on this issue, particularly for those in my community, and especially in response to a video on Facebook that someone posted showing a gentleman sitting in a chair with a flower in his hand and a glass of scotch or something like that, and he's sitting back and he's facing the camera, and he looks like it sounds like he's talking to a woman, things like, "Oh, baby, this is a great day for us, and I didn't think we'd make it this far. People didn't think we could make it," and all this stuff, and it sounds very romantic and all this stuff. But what he's talking about and celebrating is actually abortion. It's an ad from Planned Parenthood or one of those other groups, rejoicing about abortion and celebrating it. So in response to that, I thought I should, educate us in what's going on. Especially for us, as because the gentleman in the video was African American, and so historically for us in the African American community, we've always welcomed children into family life, no matter what the circumstances regarding how the child came to be. We've always respected that, and tragically, since the 70s, this has changed dramatically before our very eyes. Since 1993, 20 years after the Roe versus Wade decision, legal abortion has killed more African Americans than AIDS, cancer, diabetes, and violent crime combined. The fact is that every week, more blacks die in American abortion clinics than were killed in the entire Vietnam War. Planned Parenthood and groups like them, wants us to embrace their eugenic ideology as the status quo. They would like us to ignore the fact that abortion kills as many black people every 4 days as the Ku Klux Klan killed in 150 years. They want us to be convinced that abortion and euthanasia are merely political or civil rights issues, and they take full advantage of the emotional and polemical arguments of liberal versus conservative. They want you to get so wrapped up in the emotion that you don't think. The reality is that their marketing slogans like low-income health care, reproductive rights, family planning, the fact is all of those are just simply pejorative rhetoric that they use to try to exterminate an entire race of people like they were vermin. The founder of Planned Parenthood knew that people in the black community were religious, and she actually recruited ministers to help her in her project, although obviously didn't know at the time totally what her plan was or what was going on. She wrote in a letter regarding something that's called the Negro Project that ministers, the work of ministers is important, and that they should be trained to help them reach their goals. And she says that we do not want word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. And the minister is the man who can straighten that idea out if it ever occurs in any more of their rebellious members. So there's definitely an agenda here. And even though Margaret Sanger is no longer around, there's no question that this eugenic ideology is still pervasive today. So as a minister myself in the Catholic Church, I will do everything that I can, along with many, many others that share and love our one holy Catholic and Apostolic faith, to eliminate this plague from the face of the earth. Also, a few people have emailed with regard to where I'm going to be this week, kind of my little travel schedule. So on Friday the 25th, I'm going to be at St. Rose of Lima in Reno, Nevada, doing a Year of Faith seminar about the Holy Sacrifice of the Mass and Adoration. So if you're in the Reno, Nevada area, or if you're going to be there, St. Rose of Lima on Friday. And then Saturday morning, I will be at Rancho Santa Margarita at a Made for More men's conference there in Rancho Santa Margarita, California, talking about the transforming power of prayer in the lives of men. So if you're going to be in either Nevada on Friday or Southern California on Saturday in Orange County, I will be there, and I look forward to seeing you. Finally, as I just mentioned, this is the Year of Faith, and we are well into it right now. And I just want to let you know about an opportunity that you have coming up here. On October 14th to the 26th, and again from October 26th to November 7th, we're going to have 2 Year of Faith pilgrimages to Rome, Assisi, and San Giovanni Rotondo, amongst other places. And so I will be on that pilgrimage, and I will be giving talks, Year of Faith talks, at the different places that we'll be visiting. The pilgrimage is through some great, great folks in San Antonio. I'm definitely going to be having them on the show soon. Deacon Tom and Mary Jane Fox, who run the Pilgrim Center of Hope in San Antonio, Texas. So the pilgrimage is going to be a truly unique opportunity, custom designed, so that we can experience Rome in a particular way during this Year of Faith. Because I have a few friends over there, we're going to have access to some things that pilgrims usually don't get access to. So it's going to be phenomenal. So if you're interested in that, please go to my website, deaconharold.com, and you'll see a link for the pilgrimage. Just click on that, and you'll find a flyer and more information available to you there. So today, my brothers and sisters in Christ, we are so honored and privileged to welcome my guest. When I first heard about this apostolate, it's called St. Paul Street Evangelization. I thought it was just a group of folks going out there waving Bibles and screaming at people, because usually when you hear street evangelization, that's what comes to mind. But then I met our guest, who is the co-founder and national director, Steve Dawson, and I got a chance a couple of times actually to sit down with Steve and talk to him about this, the street evangelization project. And quite frankly, it's absolutely phenomenal. When we talk about the new evangelization, this is exactly one of the things that I think about now. This is just a phenomenal project, and I'm so pleased and privileged to have today, again, Steve Dawson, the co-founder and national director of the St. Paul Street Evangelization. Good morning and welcome, Steve.
Good morning, Deacon.
All right, it's good for you to be here today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about? I'm sure a lot of people have not heard about this tremendous apostolate for the new evangelization. So, Steve, first of all, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Just introduce people to you and a little bit about your background in the faith and your faith journey a little bit.
Sure, Deacon. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Where would you like me to start? Would you like me to go all the way back, or?
Yeah, just tell us a little bit about your faith journey. You know, how did you come to be the on-fire Catholic that you are now? Because the experience of so many of us that we don't start there. We start someplace and then we either fall away, or maybe we come back to the faith, or become
Sure.
Catholic, and then then the Lord is able to do amazing things in our lives. So why don't you just start with that?
Okay, no problem. Well, yeah, I would say that the person that I am today has been formed by a lot of ups and downs. And I'm 37 right now, and I'd say that for the vast majority of my life, it was a down. And a lot of that time was a downward spiral. So basically, when I was baptized Catholic, but in my early years, my mom had kind of fallen away from the faith. We went to Mass once in a while, but I never remember talking about God in my house when I was little. I don't remember, like, at the dinner table that we ever spoke about God. So I do remember we went to Mass once in a while, and, up until I was 13 years old, I remember catechism, but I don't remember learning anything about God really in catechism. I just remember that, there were a lot of cool kids, or I wanted to go have fun, I also remember during Mass, I would go into the back conference room. I would leave where Mass was being said, and I would just go hang out with other kids. So by the time I was 13, I was lost, I would say, spiritually, and something was missing in my life, and so I began to act out. And I would get in trouble at school all the time and at my house. And I don't know why, but I started getting in trouble with the law and really acting out very badly. I remember when I was 13 years old, I got arrested for the first time. I snuck my parents' car out. My dad had a brand new Thunderbird Super Coupe. It was fast. And I was, just a kid, 13. And I was driving around my neighborhood, and a police officer saw me. He could tell that I wasn't, old enough to be driving. And so he tried to pull me over, and instead of stopping, I just floored it. And I was, going 100 miles an hour around a turn, and the car started spinning out, and I smashed the guardrail. The car got cut in half, basically. And I don't know.
You're 13 years old? What,
13.
And you drove your father's car and got into an accident that cut the car in half, and you're still alive.
Absolutely. My guardian angel was protecting me. I know that now. But
wow.
Yeah.
There's no question that God had a plan for you, my friend. That's incredible.
Yeah,
That's incredible. So did you go to jail?
Oh yeah. Well, I went to juvie. They weren't going to throw a 13-year-old kid in jail, but I was. It was just downhill from there, Deacon. I mean, that was just the first time I got arrested. I started using drugs and getting involved in alcohol and sex, and I was just partying. But also at this time, my mom met a very holy priest named Father John Hardin, and he.
Wait. The
Yep.
Father John Hardin?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Awesome. I love that guy.
Yeah, he's great. Well, really what happened is my mom started going to, she started searching, and she started going to different churches like Baptist and all these different things. And she ended up calling the Vatican and trying to find somebody who spoke English to talk to. And she finally found somebody, and she said, can you give me one good reason to stay in the Catholic Church? And whoever it was there, she thought he yelled at her, and she was mad, but she gave the church one last chance, and she went to this little parish in Detroit, and it was Father Hardin saying Mass, and she went back to the back sacristy after Mass, and he kind of took her under his wing. So she really was like a disciple of his from that point forward, and she would go all over the world with him to Russia when he would preach to the missionaries of charity. And, he was Mother Teresa's spiritual director. So she kind of was just going all over with him, and he gave her projects, and she really had a strong conversion. But by this time, I was lost. She would try to bring me back into the faith, but I had already gone off in a different direction. And so she would pray for me, and Father Hardin would pray for me every day by name. And at this time, my mom had met different people in the church, like Cardinal Burke, and she would, write him letters or different people she had met. And so Cardinal Burke had been praying for me. But as I descended into like a dark hole of just abuse and different, as I was descending, I just was miserable, and so I had no life in me. I didn't have the obviously sanctifying grace, but no, I didn't even get pleasure out of the normal things in life anymore. And I was just putting one foot in front of the next, going for the next pleasure that I could, but I was lost. So I wanted to die. But my mom kept telling me, you need God. You need God. So, one day I said, okay, I don't know if God exists, but I said a prayer. I said, okay, God, if you exist, you're going to have to show me, because I don't really believe, and, I don't want to live anymore. So if you exist, you're going to really have to show me. And so right there at that moment was, I would say, my conversion. Catholics would say it was a reversion, but for me, I never really took hold of the faith. And so for me, it was a powerful conversion that started at that moment, just a blast of grace that was bestowed upon me.
Wow. And so you live in Portland, Oregon right now. And how did you get to Portland?
Well, I'm like I said, I'm 37 years old right now, and when I was in my early 20s, I was still in my partying years, and I moved across the country. Portland seemed like a nice place to go. I was going to Portland State out here, a good party school, I thought, and but I got sick of it, so I moved back away, and I was doing other things. So after my conversion, I spent some time with the Franciscans of the Immaculate and did some other things. But since then, I got married, and I decided I should go back and get my degree. So I have 2 classes now to get my degree at Portland State. If I would have gone anywhere else, I would have lost a lot of credits. So I figured it was good just to finish up out here. So I'm out here in Portland finishing up my degree, and this is where I started St. Paul Street Evangelization.
And you're listening to From the Rooftops with our guest, Steve Dawson, co-founder and national director for St. Paul Street Evangelization. So tell us now, Steve, how did you get started? How did you start or co-found St. Paul Street Evangelization? How did that get going? Well,
I think to kind of get the overall perspective, we do have to go back into my early conversion. After I convert, I would say my conversion was a process. So I said that prayer of, okay, God, you got to show me. And it wasn't like, boom, a bolt of lightning smashed upon me and all of a sudden I'm Catholic. It was, in fact, I didn't even want to be Catholic at that time. I said, if you exist, just show me. And so I got this really powerful desire to start researching about the existence of God and all these different apologetic type issues. And first, I came to believe that God does exist. And then I was looking at the different world religions. Well, if God exists, did he show us? Did he give us any information to kind of show us, how to live our lives? And I looked at Buddhism and Hinduism and Islam. And, I didn't want to be Catholic at this point. But finally, I got to Christianity. And I started looking at this person of Jesus Christ. Well, did he really exist? And if he did, it became clear that, to me, as C.S. Lewis said, that he is either Lord, liar, or lunatic. And I, through study and research, became convinced that he was Lord. But there was this problem of 45,000 different denominations, I think it is now. And it was confusing to me. They were all teaching different things on matters of importance, like salvation. And so, I decided to go back and look, what did the early Christians believe? And it became very clear to me very quickly that if Christianity was true, which I believed it was, then Catholicism was the true faith. So after my conversion there, I got heavily involved in the pro-life movement. I was helping to lead several 40 Days for Life campaigns. I was doing sidewalk counseling. And during this time as well, I was discerning religious life, as I had mentioned. And at the same time, I was evangelizing. I was trying to evangelize in my daily life. So I would give out miraculous medals to people and just random people that I had met. So, for example, I was at a restaurant and with some friends, and I had given the waitress a miraculous medal, and that got us started talking about Catholicism, and that led to a conversation on abortion. So we had a really good conversation that led from that miraculous medal. Well, we went back to that restaurant about 6 months later, and the waitress ran up to me. She opened up her shirt. She was pregnant, and she told me that she had found out that day that she was pregnant, and she was going to have an abortion. But she knew God sent us to her to send her a message to keep the baby. So I knew that talking to random people about the faith could have impact on a person's life. And in that situation, it saved a human life. So that baby is alive today because of a miraculous medal and a desire to share the faith. So I went into religious life, but, through discernment, I felt I was called to, with the help of my spiritual director and my superior, to live a life out in the world. And I really have a heart for the pro-life movement. But I became convinced that we weren't going to put an end to abortion in this country or any of the other grave moral evils that we're faced with until we converted the culture. I believe, as Father Hardin believed, that, abortion is a symptom to the contraceptive mentality, which we're not going to end in this country until we convert it to Catholicism. So what I wanted to do was find a way where we could evangelize the culture in such a way that could bring about conversion of it. And so basically what I did is I would just ask my friends, when was the last time you were out somewhere in public and somebody tried to evangelize you to the Catholic faith? And the answer always was never. And, we've heard about Catholics evangelizing in the past, and I'm sure some of your listeners have seen Catholics evangelizing, but overall, it's actually a rare thing today. And I thought we needed to regain that, but I thought the methods that were being used in Christianity in general today were ineffective. So we came up with an idea of a non-confrontational evangelization approach where we would just go out somewhere, set up, and offer people rosaries and just talk to people who wanted to talk to us instead of standing on a soapbox and preaching out of a loudspeaker. So that has been very effective, and we're expanding very rapidly.
You're listening to From the Rooftops. I'm your host, Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers, and we're speaking with Steve Dawson, the co-founder and national director of St. Paul Street Evangelization. You can find them at, very simply, streetevangelization.com. And we have our first caller for today on the line. It's Hector calling from St. Louis. Good morning and welcome, Hector.
Good morning. Hello?
Yes, Hector, thank you for being with us today. Do you have a question?
Well, I'm calling from California.
Oh, from California. Terrific.
Yes. I actually, is that a question? I wanted more to add on to it, onto the work that Steve Dawson is doing. I'm out here in California. I joined his street evangelization. I'm out here in California, and I gotta say that, I just had this burning to, add to it that it's such a blessing to all of us Catholics, because, like, for me, I always knew I had a calling to evangelize people, but I had no idea how to approach people or what would I do, I just, what Steve is doing, he gave me a great foundation, a great platform to where I can fulfill my calling, because I always knew I had to do something for my, to live out my faith. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Hector. And, Steve, why don't you tell us a little bit, because one of the things that absolutely fascinates me about St. Paul street evangelization is that this is run mostly by young adults. This is not, the older Catholics, people with kids and stuff. I mean, this is young adults on fire for their Catholic faith, standing out in the street again, where people come up to them and talk to them, and you are able to equip these young adults, not just with the knowledge and the pamphlets and rosaries and miraculous medals, but also the information to be able to articulate and defend and just explain if it, to have conversation, to engage in conversation. How do you do that? I mean, this is we were talking earlier that this is St. Paul Street Evangelization is one of the fastest growing apostolates in the country right now.
Yeah, it's actually amazing. And like you said, we have a lot of young adults who are getting involved, but also a lot of older people and a lot of even younger people who are in their teens. I think the great thing about what we're doing is if you are a Catholic and you have a heart for Jesus and His church, you can be an evangelist. So we're showing people that you don't need to be a theologian with your doctorate degree or a professional apologist to evangelize. We're giving people a platform, like Hector said, from California, he's just started a team out in California. And we're giving people a platform and the tools and the resources and starting February 1st, the training to be able to take the apostolate to the street inexpensively. We're not making any money on this, so we're providing everything basically for free or at cost. And so what we're doing, like I said, is showing people how to do what we do. And it's so simple that to me, it's amazing. Nobody has done it before. And basically what we do is we get a sign that says Catholic Truth on it. And basically we set up, we have pamphlets and literature and rosaries. And as we just pray out there and as people walk by, we'll ask a simple question. We'll just say, would you like a free rosary? And many people will just pass us by and will say, okay, God bless you, have a great day. But a lot of people will say, sure, and then we get the chance to explain what the rosary is. This is a prayer, it's a meditation on the gospel. And as we're talking to them, we'll just say, are you Catholic? And a lot of the time they'll say yes. But most of the time, if they're Catholic, they've fallen away. And so we talk to them about coming back to the faith in a gentle way. But some of the time, of course, they're not Catholic. So we can ask them, have you ever considered becoming Catholic? And basically what we're trying to do is meet the person where they're at, find out where they're at in their faith walk, and just have personal conversations, one-on-one conversations. And in doing evangelization in this way, because the person had approached us, there's no really guards, no walls. They don't come up to us with walls or or very defensive. They're just open. And yeah, sometimes we get people who are angry at the Catholic Church who will come up to us, or people who have, who have misconceptions about the church. But we'll very gently clear those up, or we'll just, respond with charity. And it's amazing how effective it is just to have conversations. If a person has a story to tell about what God has done in their own life, they can be a very effective evangelist. And so what we're doing is we're providing teams throughout the country. We're in 30 cities and 17 states now. We're setting up new teams all over the country every week. And we're providing each one of those teams everything that they need to take the Catholic faith to the streets in an easy and effective way. And if people are uncomfortable or don't know what to do, we're also training them and helping them to break out of their shell and just to kind of get involved. And Deacon, it's unbelievable. It's just really unbelievable what's happening out there in the streets.
Well, it's the truth and love, Ephesians chapter 4. You're listening to From the Rooftops. I'm your host, Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers, and we're going to take a little break. And when we come back, we will continue our conversation with Steve Dawson, the co-founder and national director of St. Paul Street Evangelization, with our question from the street. And those of you who listen to the show regularly know that one of the highlights of the show is we actually have a question from the street, and those questions are provided by Steve and this wonderful team at St. Paul Street Evangelization. So we'll be back in a minute.
This is Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers. As a deacon in the Catholic Church, as well as a speaker at conferences, retreats, and parish missions, I see daily the hunger for truth that people like you have. It's a hunger that only the message of Jesus Christ and His Church can satisfy. That's why I've devoted myself to traveling across the country and around the world, addressing thousands of people each year on a multitude of faith topics. And I'd love for my next stop to be at your parish, awakening the faith of your fellow parishioners with a dynamic retreat or parish mission, or at your next Catholic conference. You can find out more about how to arrange for me to come to your area at my website, deaconharold.com. That's DeaconHarold.com. My apostolate, Aurum Cordis, is Latin for ear of the heart. I hope to speak a message of God's power and love to the ears of the hearts of you and your friends. Again, learn more at deaconharold.com. DeaconHarold.com. May God bless you.
Hello, dear listeners. I'm Father Robert Young with a special announcement. The Vatican has asked that Radio Maria help them in gathering information about any and all Marian groups and ministries in our listening areas and in the United States. If you are a member of one of these groups or simply know about them, could you please help us by sending that information directly to us here at our national studio? Please send any information you may have about groups dedicated to our Blessed Mother to info.eng@radiomaria.us. That's info.eng@radiomaria.us. Or call us toll-free at 1-888-408-0201. That's 1-888-408-0201. Our sincere thanks, and may Our Lady Queen of Peace bless and protect you throughout the new year.
I would like to know why the Catholics feel they need to stand on a street corner evangelizing the way fundamental Christians do.
Well, there you have it, my friends. There's a question from the street. I'm your host, Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers, and this is From the Rooftops, and we're speaking with Steve Dawson, the co-founder and national director of St. Paul Street Evangelization. And so you just heard the question there, Steve, from the person on the street. And so why should Catholics be standing out in the street corner like the fundamentalists do, talking to people about Jesus Christ?
Well, let me just give you some background on this question. This came from the streets of our team in Boise, Idaho. A beautiful little lady is out on the streets every Sunday, and I think they have a foot of snow out there, and she'll shovel off a little path and set up her sign and her rosaries. And so people are out and about walking around, and they're just astonished to see Catholics out willing to put themselves out there on the street to bring the Catholic faith to others. And so she got this question, which is a common thing that we're experiencing. Catholics who say, this is not Catholic. What you guys are doing is not Catholic. They've never seen it before. And so, first of all, I would say that I don't think we are evangelizing in what most would have the mental picture of how the fundamentalists or our evangelical brothers and sisters evangelize. We specifically have a non-confrontational approach, and we just set up and allow people to come to us, allow the Holy Spirit to bring people to us. So, first of all, that's a little bit different. But to answer the question, why should we be out doing it? Well, the simple answer is because Jesus commanded us to go out and preach the gospel to all nations. And we live in a situation where, we live in a kind of a de-Christianized culture where people believe that they know what the gospel is already. And so we have this call for the new evangelization. And here we're living in the year of faith right now. And the Holy Father and Blessed Pope John Paul II has asked us before him, and even Pope Paul VI before him, have been calling for this new evangelization, for Catholics to recognize that we live in a different culture than the early Christians or the middle-aged Christians lived in. And so we need new forms of evangelization. We need to figure out new ways to reach people. And so St. Paul Street Evangelization is using all different forms of evangelization. So not only are we out on the streets talking to people, but we have a big presence on Facebook. We are on the internet. And so we're exploring all different means of reaching out to the culture in ways that, like Father John Robert Barron is so effective in evangelizing the culture. There's different ways to go about doing this. So Catholics are called to evangelize, and here's the bottom line: people need the truth, and it's selfish. I believe it's selfish for us to refrain from telling other people about that truth. So we need to do it in our daily lives by living good and holy lives. But we also need to reach out to the culture. And because so many people have a negative or a false idea of what the Catholic Church is, and we see that clearly out on the streets, people think they know what the Catholic Church is, but they have no idea. And nobody has ever taken the time to talk to them about the Church. So it's our mission to bring the Church to the modern world. We're out there doing it, and really it's amazing to see the fruit that God is showing us. So.
All right. You're listening to From the Rooftops on the Radio Maria Network. And Steve, you said so many very, very important things. And I just want to go back a little bit, because when you talk about this new evangelization, I think, the kind of the springboard into the new evangelization and the way that Catholics are approaching the faith now kind of started back with the Venerable Archbishop Fulton Sheen. I mean, here's a Catholic bishop who has one of the most popular radio or television programs during the 50s and the 60s. He won an Emmy. His show was extremely popular, and really, I think, is the springboard to the new evangelization with the advent of television and surprisingly, even radio. I think, radio is one of the fastest growing mediums for Catholic evangelization, an old, 20th century technology that's really taken off. And you and your colleagues at the St. Paul Street Evangelization are, I think, responding exactly the way that Blessed John Paul II, our current Holy Father, Pope Benedict XVI, have asked us to do, to use modern means of communication to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so, you have a tremendous presence on Facebook, as you said, and you're also using the social media very effectively. And one of the things also, I think I want you to talk about this a little bit because, you are in a ton of places. I mean, you're in Anaheim and Los Angeles and Fort Lauderdale, Tampa, Boise, as you mentioned, Chicago, Springfield, Detroit, Minneapolis, Kansas City, Great Falls, Las Vegas, in New York State, and Glen Falls, and Raleigh, North Carolina, and on and on and on. So here you are in Portland, evangelizing on the street. You get a group of people around you that want to share your passion for evangelization. How'd you get all these other people from around the country? And even I noticed on your Facebook page, you have inquiries from Australia, Africa. You're reaching out to the world now. How did that part happen?
Well, I mean, frankly, I believe it's the Holy Spirit. And none of this could have. We only started 9 months ago. Okay, that was our first time out about 9 months ago, and since that time, we've just had explosive growth. We have 12,000 people following us on Facebook. I get contacted every day by multiple people from all over the world, not only Australia and Africa, but Dubai, places in the Middle East that you wouldn't even expect, the Philippines. I mean, just all over the place. And really, if the Holy Spirit, I believe, if the Holy Spirit was not behind this thing, we wouldn't be seeing the growth that we're seeing. And so it's hard to keep up. But just I think on the natural level, I think that we have a great team, a great foundation to build on, and a great team of people to implement that foundation. Well,
who, for example, who do you have working with you, as an advisory board? Like, who's helping you in this mission of evangelization?
Yeah.
Obviously, there's some people on there that I think a lot of our listeners would recognize.
Right.
That really add credibility to what you're doing. So you're not just some maverick out there doing your own thing. Obviously, the Holy Spirit has taken your heart of evangelization, has used your experience, because quite frankly, Steve, I mean, you're in a place where a lot of people who walk up to you on the street, you know that. I mean, you've been there. You've been in their shoes. And I think that when people hear your story and hear your passion for evangelization, and they look at what the St. Paul Street Evangelization is doing, it wakes something up in them. It stirs the coals of the fire of the Holy Spirit in their heart, and they just want to be part of it. So, and I know no one can do anything alone. I can't do my apostolate on my own as well. So who do you have helping you? Who have you reached out to assist you in kind of directing the St. Paul Street Evangelization?
Yeah. So first of all, we have a team of hundreds of evangelists. So those are the people on the ground. And then on top of that, we have a great team of a great board of directors and spiritual advisor. We have a priest, Father Fox, from the Archdiocese of Detroit, who's on our board, and he's our spiritual director. A layer above that is our board of advisors. And so we're building that right now, but currently we have people like Steve Ray and John Martinoni, and yourself, Deacon, has so graciously accepted to be on our board of advisors. And so the point of having a board of advisors is to capture the experience from Catholics who have led apostolates, who have run apostolates successfully. And we need to reach out to those Catholics who already have successful apostolates so that they can advise us and guide us and kind of teach us, show us what their mistakes were, and point us in the right direction. So we have just a team of great Catholics, starting with the people on the street and ending with the famous Catholic names in America. So we're building that team, and it's growing every day.
You're listening to From the Rooftops, and I'm your host, Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers. Join us in our conversation today with Steve Dawson, the National Director of the St. Paul Street Evangelization. And so, Steve, you talked about having hundreds of folks out on the street evangelizing. So how do you train these folks? Let's say, for example, someone wants to be part of it, but they're scared. One walks up to the street and say, you Catholics, and who are you to tell me what to do with my body? And who are you to, say that a woman doesn't have a right to choose and things like that? I mean, how do you train people to kind of overcome their fear, to, not be afraid, just to go out there and hand out a rosary, in love, and not feel afraid or not feel embarrassed or ashamed? How do you get past that?
Well, yeah, that's a really good question. And when we started out here doing this in Portland, when we only had one team, what I did is I called up a group of friends and I said, "Look, guys, we've got to go out and do this. We've got to go do it in a non-confrontational way. We don't want to be having public debates or screaming matches with people, but let's just go out and set up somewhere and just see what the Holy Spirit does." And so what we found was that when we were just out there praying, and as you know, Deacon, you're from Portland like I am. We're in the most unchurched part of the country, probably one of the most hostile places of the country towards the church.
You got that right.
Yeah. So really, I believed if we could do it here, it could work anywhere. And so what we found was that while we did occasionally get the people who came up to us and screamed about, this is my body or whatever, I think that has only happened to us a handful of times, and we've been out 100 times, So what we're doing is we're showing in pictures and with stories what we're doing out here and what's being done around the country. And when people see it visually, like you can go to our Facebook page, and if you click through our photographs with the stories, people very quickly get the sense of, wow, I can do that. I can do that. And so they'll just try it once, and then they're hooked. It's a very powerful thing that when you go out and you have a good conversation, and we have really excellent conversations every time we go out. I don't think there's been a time that I've gone out where I haven't had at least, a half a dozen really great conversations. And so on that level, people kind of get courage. They get, I believe they get the grace to at least try it and see what happens. On top of that, what we have recognized that as we're expanding so rapidly, in order to keep everybody on the same page, we need to implement some rules and guidelines and training, certifications and different things like that, because, very quickly we could lose, we could lose control. I mean, sometimes I get people contacting me and they'd say, "Yeah, I'm a good Catholic," and I find out 2 weeks later that they believe in Gnosticism and all this kind of stuff. And so if we have to really be careful about our organization.
Oh yeah, especially with the explosive growth that you're experiencing. You don't want people going out there and actually undermining what you're trying to do. I mean, as you said so beautifully before, Steve, you're trying to give people the truth of the Catholic faith. And so say, for example, someone contacts you from a city you're not in and says, I love what you're doing. I see you on Facebook. I see your YouTube videos, and, I want to do the same thing. What is the process? What did they go through to be able to duplicate what you've done so well in Portland and other places around the country and now around the world?
Yeah. So the first thing they have to do is go to our website, which is streetevangelization.com. It's very simple. Look through our different pages on there. We have what we do and about and all these different pages that kind of give someone an idea of what's involved in joining us. Then they go to the Get Involved tab, and they have to agree to a code of conduct and membership agreement, which has statements like, I am a Catholic in good standing. I will follow all the laws in the local area. And there's about 4 or 5 questions. They fill that out, and then we respond to them and get them hooked into our organization. From there, we work with them in getting them the tools and resources that they need to take the apostolate. But at the same time, we're in communication with them. We'll pick up the phone and we'll give them a call. They need to give us their phone number and address if they want to join us. If they're afraid to do that, then we need to be able to have some sort of contact and communication that's legitimate. So on top of that, what we have coming out on February 1st is online training. So there's 3 modules. Within each module, it has 10 courses, and each one of those courses has a quiz. And after you get through with each set of modules, you'll take a final quiz, and it'll give you a certification. And so within this module, we'll do the weeding out process. Our people need to take, if you're a leader, you need to take the oath of fidelity to the church, which is, put out by the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith. With that one thing, we're gonna, ensure that we, for the most part, unless people are just going to lie to us, we're going to make sure that we have the right sort of Catholic getting involved. So we're doing everything we can to kind of lay the groundwork to help people become confident with sharing the faith, and also teaching them. This training is at your own pace. It's not something that's going to take forever to do. Each one of these things is like an hour or 2, and we're just trying to get everyone on the same page, make people comfortable about our mission and our vision, and what are the rules about being out there, and what are some ways that you can defuse hot situations. If you get into an argument, how do you settle that down? So I think with all these different type of training and these different foundations that we're laying, we're gonna provide ourselves a framework, a groundwork to go forward into the future with the least amount of growing pains, I would say. So that's what we're doing here. Okay,
and obviously this is not free. I mean, it is free. No one has to pay to be part of this group. But so how do you keep this going? How do you pay for materials and fund yourselves?
Yeah. So when we first started, it cost we gave each team the templates and we pointed them in the direction where to get the signs and the literature and the rosaries. But it cost each team about $300, $400 before they even got out on the streets. Since that time, we have started several different projects that are going to reduce costs for each local team. So we have a team of writers who are writing our pamphlets, of theologians and apologists. So we have 20 pamphlets that are coming out in the next week or so that we will be providing for free to our teams, which will reduce costs by hundreds of dollars per team. we have just purchased a bulk order of signs. So we have a guy in Florida, Andre, who's a contractor, and he's actually constructing the signs, very professional signs, for our team. So it's going to reduce the sign cost from $135 to maybe $40. So,
fantastic!
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So basically,
we got to wrap up here, Steve. Okay. It's great having you on, and I'm sure that we will have you on again to get an update and maybe hear from some of the people that are on the street, that are doing the work as well. So, my brothers and sisters in Christ, you've been listening to Steve Dawson, the National Director and Co-Founder of St. Paul Street Evangelization. I'm your host, Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers, and thank you for joining us this week on From the Rooftops. Take care and God bless, and we'll see you next week.
God bless, Deacon.
We hope you've enjoyed today's show, and please consider joining us next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We seek to rekindle the desire for intimacy with the Lord by reconnecting to the Catholic faith to your everyday lived experience. If you are interested in experiencing Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers live at your next event, or have a question you'd like to discuss on the show, visit www.dynamicdeacon.com. That's www.dynamicdeacon.com.